So, Mouthwashing is the new TikTok horror game, I would like to call it. You know, the ones that you see on your For You page, you maybe play, maybe you don't, but like you see it, you think about it, and then you end up buying it or, whatever, right? But it feels like it's very much the trendy game, right? And so I bought it with the assumption, like, it's spooky, I don't know much about it, I the people I like are listening to it, and I would like to say, all of those people can burn in fucking hell. This game was scary. Scary in a way I wasn't expecting, right? Here's the thing. I can take the body horror, right? Curly is like the poster child of this game. I assumed it was gonna be a little icky and gross. Now, feeding a guy his own leg, that gross is a little gross for me, right? Like especially the fact that it's like a mini game where like you end up having to like get denied and then put it back again. Very gross, but the horror aspects are what I was expecting, right? The spooky scenes, the getting jumped, ooh, right? Completely understood that. But the subtlety of the game, the subtlety within the writing, and all of the little bits that make the game truly horrifying, right? The fact that nothing that is the real tragedy of the game is ever explicitly mentioned, right? The fact that it really does take a deeper look into what's happening to truly understand how horrifying the game is I'd say brilliant. And I'd say the reason why it's able to work is because you play as not just the villain, right? He's not just the bad guy. Jimmy is an abuser, and I think that he is very good at showing people that abusive people aren't necessarily like mustache twirlingly evil, right? They can be your friends, they can be, people that you wouldn't think could do these things. They're people that you can see and understand, right? They're not so disconnected to you that you like could never understand how they get to this position, which I feel like a lot of media does. But as playing as Jimmy, right, us being the bad guy, we get to see this very skewed version of reality that I think is what would go through an abuser's head, right? Whenever he, like, for instance, lashes out at Anya for not wanting to give Curly the pills, originally the scene seems reasonable. He's under stress. Anya, despite the fact that she is the nurse on the ship, doesn't want to give the disabled man the pills, right? And so after what feels like, especially as the person that's playing him, she's giving you all these tasks throughout the game, and so whenever she gives you another, you can understand why Jimmy would break down, right? But again, through a second lens, right? Initially, you can agree with Jimmy because initially that's the point, right? You could understand why an abuser is like the way he is if you weren't given the proper context. If you were only shown his point of view, his actions make sense. But Jimmy is, in the canon of the game, referred to as a person that raped Anya, right? She is trapped in space with a man that raped her, and so it makes sense that shoving something down somebody's throat and having to hear the icky sounds of it being forced down would be a little triggering. And that kind of writing, they could only be truly like appreciated because the fact that you are the abuser, so initially you don't think anything of it, is what makes this game so fucking brilliant, right? I loved Mouthwashing despite the fact that I hated it, right? Like I thought it was very interesting, it was very intriguing. I never really felt like despite the fact that it felt like a lot happened, I never felt lost, if that makes sense, right? The game likes to bounce around with where you are, and I think that seeing, Curly beforehand and then seeing Jimmy kind of being this like I think initially I feel like it's he's just not living up to Curly's standard, but the more you see, the more you think, the more you read into it, it's like, oh, Curly offered him this job and now everyone is dying because of it, right? And I think it's so incredible because Jimmy's abuse cannot happen without Curly's like failures, right? And again, on our end as the player, it's very hard to see this, right? We assume that like subconsciously because we're the good guys, right? Because when you play the game, you're typically the good guy. We assume that Jimmy is going to be like he's going to step up where Curly failed and that we're going to do these things, but the game starts with you crashing into an asteroid. So it's like, well, well, are we the good guy? Like it already creates this kind of very weird feeling of like, are we even like the good guy, right? And the more you learn, the more you question, and then you eventually realize, oh no, right? Um, and again, I think this is played off very well with, his with Curly, right? Curly was a man that allowed all of this abuse to happen. He was somebody that because he was the captain, right, he allowed Jimmy to get in there, and then even once Jimmy had raped Anya, there was no repercussion because again he believes in seeing, like, he wants to keep everybody happy, he wants to maintain the status quo. And again, the reason why we know this is because of very subtle writing, right? When he talks about how he wants to see the bigger picture, right, it makes sense because the dead pixel is all that Anya can focus on. The rape that she experienced, the abuse that she experienced, that is what she can focus on. But Curly sees a crew that's still functional, so there's nothing wrong with it, right? Therefore, he can see the bigger picture as still very beautiful. Little nuances like that are what makes this game incredible, but again, I digress to get back to the point. The point is that Curly knew about this abuse. Curly understood that Jimmy was a bad guy, but he assumed that he had good intentions, like that he was a good person deep down. And that belief allows all of this abuse to happen, right? And so what I love is the fact that Curly's punishment, in a sense, like the because I don't think that like you should see disability as a punishment. I feel like that's a very weird, like, it's like, no, it's just kind of a thing that happens to people. Not everybody that like doesn't have legs was like a serial rapist in their past life. Like it's just, again, it but I'm saying the circumstances that lead to him there is he used to have the power over Jimmy. He used to be able to wind him back in, but he didn't, right? He had the power, but he never brought Jimmy back in. However, now he is completely stripped of any power that he has. He can't stop Jimmy. He can't stop him from doing these things. He can't do anything. He has to become the victim of the abuser who he allowed to continue his abuse. Like, look, that's phenomenal writing. That is incredible writing, right? And again, it's only seen because we're the abuser. We think of ourselves as like filling the shoes of Curly, but that's not what we do. And so it's like, it's it's beautiful. It's such intelligent writing. And even though this is kind of getting off topic, every single moment of this game is just so when it's not being like agonizingly painful to play through, whenever it's not disgusting and confusing and painful, it is some Shakespearean writing on display. And again, I love that from Jimmy's point of view, when we play the game, we think that Swansea's going to be the bad guy because he's very confrontational. He's very different, right? He has this like again he has this relationship of very much like that classic blue collar feel where it's like, I worked 180 hours unpaid. You sissy liberals ain't know nothing about, like, that's what he comes off as, right? And so we can see that like maybe this guy is going to be the one that causes the problems, right? And especially when you have to like shoot him in the head before you know why you're shooting him in the head. Like, it makes you think that like maybe Jimmy's the good guy somehow. Like maybe it kind of all wraps into him being the. It always is keeping you guessing because again, you're the player, you're the good guy, and so it's like, what's coming next? What's coming? That level of guessing and that the reward that you get from really thinking about it is so incredible, right? Really understanding that you are not a good person in this game is so great, right? It almost makes you not want to replay the game because you don't want these characters to experience it again, right? Again, he's a narcissist, he's controlling, he's very, again, he does all of these horrible things and he gets away with it because of the interaction with Curly, and it's just every single part of it. It never the more I've thought about this game, because I beat it yesterday and I gave myself about a day to kind of think about it, look at other people's opinions, do all that. And the more that I think about it, the more that I see from other people, it feels like the depth and the nuance in this game is never ending. And again, a lot of it is, I would say, because you see the world through an abuser's eyes, and it makes you kind of initially feel sympathetic towards him, but then pulls you back in and makes you then realize, like, after reflection, I'm the bad guy. And again, I like that Jimmy doesn't survive. Jimmy eventually does come to the realization that like I'm the bad guy. Like I am not at all the good guy in the scenario, but because he's still a coward, because he's still a shitty person, he kills himself because he still like he no matter what he, no matter what he did, he doesn't think he should have consequences for it. He doesn't think that there should be any bad things that come to the glorious Jimmy, right? And I love that Curly is the one that has to survive because it is the ultimate victimization that Jimmy could have put onto him, right? This man who now has like again he's out of a job, right? He was already worried about like, oh, am I going to be able to like do something new effectively with his disability of being, quadru like, like four of his limbs are now functionally irreparable, or he's never going to be coming back at full capacity. He's out of a job, of the job that he's known for so long, right? He no longer can really try to be the best at anything. He's left to be the only one left standing in this, and he never got a say. Right? I would guarantee that Curly would have wanted to just die there, but he doesn't get the option anymore because it's no longer his choice. Because Jimmy gets to choose because he's the player because he's important, right? Because that's what abusers think. They think that they have this main character syndrome, that they are, they are the most important. And it's like, oh my goodness, look at, like, again, the more you think about it, even just through this rant, it makes me think and think and think and think. And the more you think and think and think and think, the better this game gets and gets and gets and gets. And it's like, I love that. I love it when things go, like, when every single idea that you have is just looping into each other in this amazing way, right? But that is, I don't want to keep rambling because at this point it's kind of gone off tangentially into other things. Mouthwashing is incredible. It was horrifying. It was beautiful. It was disgusting. It was amazing. I cannot praise this game enough. It again, I really hope it inspires people to kind of realize that you can make artsy fartsy things. You can do interesting things. You can be different and unique and very gross, and you can still make it work and still be intriguing and still succeed. And I really hope that that other games kind of replicate that level of literary analysis that's required for this game because I think it makes it a lot more fun to interact. But again, that's my piece. Again, I would like to thank y'all. I got 250 subscribers, which is, rolling in the big ones now. We're getting up there. But again, yeah, I love the support. I love seeing all your comments. I love the fact that I don't have to click on, the YouTube video and watch it on my own part to make sure it at least gets one view. I don't have to do that anymore because now I have all of you loving peoples to make sure that I get at least one view, which is again always great. But yeah, again, I should be back at some point in the future. So I will see y'all then with another rant. Yeah, thank you for watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.